Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Dana. I am from Divine Goddess Cards. Today I'm going to be sharing a project using the new Computer Grafix. This is the matte film for the laser copier. They also have inkjet available if you don't have a laser printer. A couple more of the products that I'm going to be using today are the Artist-tac and the Double Tack adhesives. The Artist-tac is the micro dot adhesive sheets, and then the Double Tack is the full adhesive sheets. Both are permanent once you burnish them down, and they make great adhesives, great dry adhesives. To start off, I just took a piece of scrapbook paper, pattern paper, and I cut it down to, this is about 8.5 by 4.5, and I'm just going to ink around the edges using a little bit of brown ink. This one happens to be Vintage Photo Distress ink, but any brown ink that you have will work for this. And I'm just inking around all the edges with a foam applicator. This just kind of grunges it up a little bit. You can also use a makeup sponge. You could even use paint, some brown paint if that's all you have. It'll just give it a different look. And then I printed this vintage image onto a sheet of the Computer Grafix, and this is just a vintage script image. You could use any script image that you have. This is the one that I chose just because I like the kind of grungy brown. But as an alternative, if you don't have a printer handy or you don't have any of the Computer Grafix sheets, if you have one of these two sheets from the Whimsical Florals print set, you could also use one of these in place of the printed sheet for this. And I'm going to layer that on top of my pattern paper. And with the Computer Grafix, it's frosted is what I would call it. So you can still see the pattern below and the pattern that's printed on it. It just kind of adds a little bit extra. If you're familiar with photography, one thing that I used to love to do back in the old days, when we used to have actual film, they would call it double exposing a picture. It is when you essentially layer two photos on top of each other and double expose it so you'd get a whole new print. You can do that digitally now, but that's the frame of reference that I have. Anywho, that's essentially what I'm doing here. And I'm going to actually stitch around the edges to adhere the sheets together, but you could use a full sheet of the Double Tack to do this if you didn't have a sewing machine. Okay, so I've got that all stitched. I kind of just did a messy stitching. And then this is the main image. I also printed this out on the Computer Grafix. And I think I'm going to put that on this sheet of paper. This is the same image as this. I just printed it out on some copy paper. But I like how you can see the script through there. So I think I'm going to do that as a backing. And then to adhere that, I am going to go ahead and use some of the Double Tack. Okay, so with the Double Tack, it's got two sheets of this kind of protective non-stick paper on it. And then in the center is the adhesive sheet. So all you do is you pull one of the protective sheets off, lay your image on there, and I'm going to try and get it as close to the edge as possible. And then I cannot cut a straight line with a pair of scissors to save my life. So at this point, I will cut it out with my paper trimmer. And if you leave both sheets of the protective film on, you won't gum up your scissors or your paper trimmers. So I'm just going to line that up as best as I can. Oh. And any little bits of the Double Tack that you cut off, save them because you can use them for other projects. So then I'm just going to take the backing part off. And then all the adhesive is left on there. And I'm just going to line that up where I want it on this sheet. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I don't want much script on her face. So we'll go about right there. There's a little script, but it almost makes her look like she has freckles. So then I'm just gonna rough trim this out so then I can trim it out better with my paper trimmer. Okay, and I didn't cut that out perfectly. I left kind of a rough edge on it just so that I can go in and grunge it up some more. Then you can even go in with a pair of scissors. Now be careful when you're doing this and just kind of scratch along the edges of the paper. Be careful not to scratch on your computer graphics print because you could literally scratch the image off. So I'm just doing this on the edge with the paper. You could skip this step if you wanted to. I like to add grunge wherever I can. Then I'm going to start adding my embellishments. This is just a partial sheet of the Artist-tac. And I'm just going to get this ready. So these are just some die cut pieces that I had. And I think, actually I'm going to trim that one a bit. This is one of those projects that it's great to just pull random bits and bobs that you have in your stash and use them up. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick those two down on the Artist-tac. And then I also have these little cutouts. Oh, I thought I had... Do I want 3 bottles or just 2? I think I just want 2. And then these I'm going to grunge up a bit too, just because why not? And these are just digital prints that I did on just regular old copy paper. All these little ephemera bits are just things that I've pulled out of my stash. Some I've made with stamps, some were part of purchased little packs. There we go. So those are the bits and bobs I think I'm going to use. So I'm just going to put the top sheet down and give everything a good rub. And you just pull your top sheet back off and then everything that's on there is a sticker. And I like to put things down with my reverse tweezers. Let's see here. I want this relatively straight. Okay. I think about there looks good. And if you have any of the adhesive dots on top, You can just go in with an adhesive eraser later and remove those. I think I want that about there. Actually, I think I'm going to move this over. That's another good thing about the Artist-tac is since I didn't give it a good rub down, it's still removable. So I can move it over. There we go. That's better. I like that. Put that there. Let's do that about there just to give it a little bit more symmetry maybe. And I'll put the circle here. And this, I wasn't sure if I was going to use, but I think I might put it over here. Move this out just a tad. There we go. And then my little moth I will add in a minute. And then I have this little word strip here. I'm also going to adhere down with some of the Artist-tac. And before I add my main image down, I'm just going to remove some of the adhesive that I have. And then this will also help burnish everything down. And then for the main image, I am going to just pop that up on some foam adhesive. If you didn't want to add dimension, you could always use the Artist-tac or the double tack for this. And that, I think, go about there. And the little moth that I have, I'm going to put up in this corner. like it's flying out of the casket. And then for my sentiment, I'm going to put that right here. And here we go. Here is the finished little collage project for today using the new Computer Grafix matte film for the laser printer. This now could easily be turned into a Halloween deco piece. All you'd have to do is take a little bit of your double tack and some scrap cardboard or some chipboard, and then you have a lovely little Halloween decor piece, or you could easily turn it into a card, whatever you'd like to do with your finished piece. But thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed. If you're interested in any of these products from Grafix, they can be found on grafixarts.com, and a supply list will be down below in the description box. Again, thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one.